1996, you'd think the rest of the band would follow through, and that would be the end of Genesis. Well, you would be wrong, idiot! Genesis would still proceed to make another album and continue with yet another new sound. They would get Ray Wilson as their new lead singer and would record their new album in the first half of 1997 and would release it on September 2nd, 1997 under the label Virgin Atlantic, which the past two albums were released to. While it wasn't as successful as their last album, it still charted at number 2 in the UK, Germany, and Norway. It was a different album from We Can't Dance, being way less popular, but not exactly back to their prog roots. It's prog meet grunge, I guess you could say, or prog meets post-grunge. It's darker and sadder than what the previous releases were doing, ushering in a whole new wave of Genesis for a whole new generation. Is what I would be saying if it wasn't a completely lifeless album. Well, this album wasn't terrible, it wasn't anything to write home about. Even though it was great that they were trying to stray away from the Phil Collins Genesis, it also at the same time made you miss Phil Collins, because at least at his more popular commercial moments, he still put some sort of life and humor and energy into the music that made some of the songs at least keep you up, even if they weren't that great. Even though I can't really be too mad about this album, because I already put most of my anger out on We Can't Dance, and the fact that there's only 2 original members, it makes you just not proud of the end result of this album. But at least Calling All Stations doesn't make you completely frustrated, even though some of the songs like the title track and The Dividing Line aren't too bad. Most of the other songs are just boring and you aren't missing anything if you're not listening to them. Even Mike Rutherford knew the album was a snooze fest because he would just leave the band a year or 2 later, officially killing Genesis and ending any further collaborations with Ray Wilson. After the band falling apart in the late 90s, the original members would go on to do separate projects and were starting to grow old. Phil Collins would work on Disney films, finish solo touring in 2004, and the rest of the band would work on their own solo stuff. Peter Gabriel would even have his own music festival starting in 1982. Everyone would seem to be doing well and would go on to be rock legends by this point. They would go on to do a reunion tour in 2007, just the trio, and would be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by Trey Anastasio of Phish in 2010. All but Peter Gabriel came to accept their award.
So much, Trey. Thank you, Phish. What a great version. Much better than we used to do it. As you see, Peter's not with us tonight, and he wanted me to say his apologies. He has a very legitimate, genuine excuse.
Trey Anastasio would even do Genesis justice by playing 2 sides of Genesis. First, Watcher of the Skies for the Peter Gabriel era, and No Reply at All for the Phil Collins era. But in 2014, not just the 5 members of Genesis, but even past members like Anthony Phillips would come together for a documentary on BBC. Yeah, nothing too crazy, but it's a pretty good documentary. Some tragedies would hit though, with Phil Collins and Chester Thompson having a fallout in 2010 over a petty thing having to do with Chester's playing, leaving them to never talk again ever since. But the biggest blow was back in 2007. When on the reunion tour, Phil Collins managed to dislocate a vertebrae in his neck while performing. Through the years, it would just get worse with Phil Collins' health, to the point of him not even being able to play his drums. With this happening, it would be known by this point that Phil Collins may not have much time left. So, say his farewells, him and the rest of the band would go on to do the final Genesis tour called Last Domino. Phil Collins, while not being able to drum but sing, would have his son play drums. Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford, and Daryl Sturmer would be back on their respective instruments. Even though some fans were critical of Genesis doing a tour at Phil's state, I thought it was great. They would do one more tour just to come back and say their farewells. It's a good set-off, I guess you could say. They play a lot of their classics. Not just from the days as a trio, but stuff from the Peter Gabriel era. And even though poor Phil Collins was in a chair for most of the concert, it would have been a great concert to see. Wish they came where I live. But at last, they played their final concert on March 26, 2022. After playing the song Mama, Phil Collins would announce that it would be their last show.
We're pleased you're here. We're Genesis. And we are here to entertain you. Tonight is a very special night. Of course, we're playing in London, and it's the last stop of our tour. And it's the last show for Genesis.
Peter Gabriel would even be there too to watch the final concert. After about 2 hours of playing though, they would start to finish up and play an encore with I Can't Dance, and the opening to Dancing with the Moon at Night, which would lead into the final song Genesis would ever play to their audience, Carpet Crawlers, the end of a legendary group.
Can you tell me where my country lies? Quite the uniform to his true love. It lies with quite the queen of navy for her merchandise he traded in. Ain't no quite a voice in the crowd. Easy now, sit down. The note he left was signed old Father Ted. Perhaps he's drowned, sailing in blind by the pound. I sit beside our people, they've more life good than before. They're moving in time through a heavy wooden door, where the needle's eye is winking, closing on the pole. The carpet crawlers, keep their crawlers. We've gotta get in and get out. We gotta get in and get out. We gotta get in to get out. There's only one direction in the faces that I see. Self-work to that ceiling where the change is said to be. Though the forest fight the sunlight, it takes root in every tree. They are blown up by the magnet, believing that we can fly all of us, feed them all of us. Gotta get in and get out. We've gotta get in and get out. We've gotta get in to get out. My man Superman, the hell in kryptonite, and the ones that always virgins with the bodies glowing bright. Through the door, our world is peace. It's lit right under the light. It's the bottom of the staircase, spine, sound and sight, and the closet walls. Keep them all up. We gotta get in and get out. Yes, we gotta get in and get out. We gotta get in to get out. The porcelain mannequin with shattered skin feels attack. I need girls that live on their beaches. They carry all the land. The liquid has been congealed, which I see down through the ground. I'm not to